Hello everyone, hello. If I sound like a bit of a ghoul, well, it's because I have a cold. Again. And I'm sucking on a cough drop while talking. Don't attempt this at home. I am a trained professional. You may have noticed in the last video that I posted, I wasn't talking. The spare case is now firmly ensconced in my ever-growing, unending synthesizer. Although, I've said it before, but I think I mean it this time, that I'm done. All of the spaces are filled and I see no reason to go any bigger. This is already too big. I'll probably move things around because that's what you do when you have a Euro rack. You're constantly moving things around because you think this would go better over here and this would go better over here. For example, vector space is over here now because now that this case is up here on the table and I can use it all the time, oh, well, it would be very handy to have a CV distributor like that if I ever play out again. I did reinstate several modules that I had taken out to make room for the BBD, and the BBD is out of the rack. I will probably sell it. I haven't yet, but I just decided that it was redundant and kind of disappointing, so I took it out, put the other things which I hadn't sold back in. You might have also noticed in the previous video that pressure points was up here. I thought that would make sense and I could save space on the desk. But when I started patching, there were all of these cables draped across it and you couldn't really reach. And that defeated the purpose of it being a control surface. So I put it back in the pod. Not using it at the moment, but yeah, you know, having it out here where you can touch it, it's kind of the whole point. And so then I had this much space, put the CLX back in, I had that much space, it was the perfect size for a rings. And a mutable rings, I feel a little guilty. I bought a clone module because rings is so expensive. This was at less than half the price of a new mutable one. And I mean, I bought other clone modules. The microburst is a Clouds clone, but Clouds is out of production. And you don't see used Clouds for sale all that often. And then Threshold is an Edges clone. Edges was the first one to go out of production. It's been unavailable for a long time. And I've never seen a used Edges for sale. Rings is a module. People who have it love it. You don't see them for sale often, used. And this was still cheaper than a used one. So I'm sorry, Emily. I had no choice but to get a clone. I'm sorry. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, and there's this. It's the Arturia BeatStep Pro. Because I was realizing that up here I've got all of this kind of like procedural rhythm generators. But what if I want to program my own rhythm? I don't really have a step sequencer up here anywhere. I've got, 8-bit cipher and I've got Dresno. Those are procedural methods of generating rhythms. I could take gate outs from sequence 8, but then I'd have to combine them in a mixer somehow. It would just be awkward. So BeatStep Pro, it's got two CV sequencers with gate, pitch, and velocity voltage outputs. And then it has a drum sequencer that just outputs gates. It's 16 channels over MIDI, and it's 8 channels of CV gates. So basically an 8-channel sequencer for analog type gear. And what you're listening to is grids. And I'm taking grids clock out at 24 pulses per quarter note. This thing can be configured to several sync standards, and I initially tried to set it at 1 pulse because I thought that would be more useful, but it just went bonkers and it did not track accurately any beat I tried to send it. I don't know what I did wrong. But at 24, it seems to sync up okay. And if I press the play button, let me wait for a proper moment, because the sync is pretty much when you press this button, it goes. Woo! The bass part is, I can isolate that. You can mute the sequencers independently, and that sequence there, that is the rings playing bass, and that's the E950 VCOB, the Formant oscillator, which I don't use very often. And of course, grids is driving T-kick, 2 HP snare, 2 HP hat. And then my drum sequence down here is one of those is just triggering this envelope up here, which envelope 1 of the A143 I'm attenuating, and is controlling one of the oscillators of the Chaos NAND, and that's doing the 16th notes, and I can mute parts individually. Tricky with one hand, but yeah, I just muted the Chaos NAND, and I can bring it back. That kind of like triangle bell, that's the Trogotronic. This pad right here, there's a pretty kind of significant learning curve. I'm still figuring out the ins and outs of this thing. It's very bewilderingly powerful, but it makes more sense than the sequencer on board the BeatStep. It's also way more flexible. Well, there's more tracks of control than the BeatStep. Harder to play if you want to perform. I would use BeatStep, but for sequencing stuff, this is way superior. And let's see, I've got conduit. And all that switch does is send gates to the low pass gate there. So I turn that switch off, and nothing gates the LPG, and I turn that switch on, and the gate goes through. So that's the way to mute that track. I can transpose these sequences and transpose them simultaneously. Listen to this. Woo! Well, so there you go. I think I have all the modules that I'm gonna get. I really do think I'm finished now buying stuff, unless it's like little desktop stuff that doesn't go in the rack. And there's the BeatStep Pro that I'm learning how to use. So that's my big news this time. Thanks to my patrons for financing all this mess. And thanks to you guys for watching. And I'll catch you next time.